amici. Welcome back to Calcio Culture. Nations League weekend in the books. Italy wrapped up today, so we're going to take a look at that for a little while today. But Motts, Logs, Vos all here. If you're on the video, Motts and Logs actually recording in person together, so this is a new one. We'll see how it sounds.
Live duo coming at you hot. Amici, Paisans, good to be back. It's your boy, Conte Lobo, one game a week. Happy to be here.
I am also here. How are we doing, my fellow paisanos? We're in Logan's apartment.
Yes, sir.
We have the collab. We now live all of 2 minutes, a minute away. So we said, why not give it a try here? So let's see how this episode goes.
One game a week, Conte Logs is a hilarious nickname. That one's going to stick to me. But in any case, we have Calcio coming back this weekend. I'm really excited for it. I hate international breaks. I also hate the Nations League. But there were some interesting things that happened with Italy, so we will talk about it. And then we're going to finish the episode off with a way too early team of the season. It's kind of a weird check-in that we decided we're going to do, but it should be interesting. It was very hard to make some of these decisions. Some of them were very clear. But before we get into it, we got Logs, one game a week, leading off. Quick shouts.
Quick shouts. Also, extremely rude that there was so much time given to my favorite segment on an episode that I simply was not involved in, even in the slightest. But thank you guys for holding it down. Way to put it up. Way to show out. What do you
Logs didn't listen to the episode, so he just found out that it was a 20-minute quick shout.
I'm a little hot right now.
Because of that, I will do the first quick shout of today's episode. Our boy Conte Logs has 2 dates this week coming up. Shout for Rose.
He's back. City Boys up. In any case, into the real quick shouts of the week. Starting off with a little RIP to the international careers for Ilkay Gundogan, Manuel Neuer, and Thomas Mueller. They all, 3 of them, have retired from international duty. We are seeing the German kings fall like flies these days. RIP to those 3 legends.
Never been a fan of Thomas Mueller or Neuer. Finally, I'm glad they're gone. Don't need to see their disgusting faces on my TV anymore. They can go rot in Bayern. Never liked them, never will.
That's such a poor take. Also, interesting enough, these are all Pep Guardiola guys.
Neuer's and Thomas Mueller are not. Oh yeah, Bayern.
Bayern's not. And then the crazy thing is Sprague.
That was like, talk about a cop-out from one of the best managers ever. Like, oh, let me just go to Bayern. They already dominate. What are we talking about?
I think Pep's Bayern is one of my favorite teams of all time. He took them to another level that they hadn't hit yet.
Really? What was that? Winning the league? Because they did that before. Or winning the Champions League? Or wait, they didn't do that. So no, he didn't.
Yes, they did. They beat Dortmund in the Champions League final.
They didn't get to do that.
No way. Not under Pep.
No, with Loa.
Not under Pep.
It might not have been with Pep.
Pep never won it.
Well, he was that checking.
I'll come back.
Now we're checking another international check-in here. Nigeria, the Nigerian national team flew to Libya and was held hostage in the airport. They never,
13 hours?
It was something ridiculous, but they never even left. They officially, while they were there, probably 6 hours in, decided to boycott the game and called in the Nigerian government to have a plane fly in to the Libyan airport and pick them up because they were not letting them leave the airport.
And also, when Logue says no, held hostage, no food, no water for the duration of time.
Literally.
Also, no Wi-Fi, but you don't really need Wi-Fi in today's day and age because all your phones have service.
Also, they were with their friends. They're hanging out.
Correct. Get off your phone. But the no food and no water is a crazy thing.
That's literally criminal. They're actually criminal. Yeah. But do you have a stat update or am I going to the next?
I'll look in.
All right. The next quick show. Lionel Messi, as always, with the biggest support of Adidas, is releasing a brand new boot. And 10 individual youngsters out there have been hand-selected to wear said boot to premiere it. The best names on this list, we have Lamine Yamal, Lisan Al-Gaib Lamal. We have the only American on the list, Jaden Shaw. Shout out U.S. Women's National Team. we have Motts' boy, Keenan Yildiz, and we have an Argentinian, Claudio Echeverri. So shouts to Leo, still popping them out, still getting reps from the boots. And shouts to those 10 youngsters. That's going to feel good. Oh, and Vos, I don't know if you're being so quiet over there or not, but Motts was just so quickly able to find this that Guardiola did not win the Champions
Yeah, he
League.
didn't. Or was he before? They won the year before. So I don't know. Maybe it's fake news. Maybe Caps Bayern was fake news.
Maybe Bayern is still fake news.
No, I like
Too
Bayern.
soon.
I'm a big
Too
Bayern
soon.
fan.
But in any case, I'm going to kick it to Motts, who should stay up his phone.
I'm getting the stats.
And he's going to talk to us about how unbelievably good Inter has been playing while not playing for Inter.
Correct. Inter players are rated the highest in the Nations League right now. Hakan got a match rating of 8.6, Dumfries 8.4, Zielinski 7.7, Arnautovic 7.6, Bastoni 7.2, and De Vrij 7.2. So clearly there might maybe something problems with Inzaghi. Inter trying to still figure it out because yes, they've gotten it together where they're third or second in the table that we covered that last episode, but their players are all in form right now, as you see when they go into international play.
Well, it's funny because of those guys you said, only 2 of them are starter.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, especially Dumfries. Maybe Inzaghi should realize, hey, we played him every game last year for the full 90. Netherlands is doing it. Maybe we should start doing it now.
Well, here's the question for you. Do you think that he's just holding him back because of everything that he did last year? Because I think with how good Darmian has been very good this whole time. So I think that's my guess. Let the legs heal because this is a long season. They're going to try to make a Champions League run. Denzel Dumfries is still somehow underrated. I don't know how. He's not considered one of the best outside backs in the world at this point. It really doesn't make sense to me.
I think that's a valid case. It probably is because he played so many minutes, and we have the obviously off of the Euros, right? And then you have the Club World Cup as well this summer. So there's more games than usual this season, and Inter want to make a deep Champions League run. So that could make sense. That's kind of why I thought Mata wasn't playing Douglas Luiz because of the minutes he played last season. So that makes sense. One person that I know does not like Dumfries though, which I don't understand why. And this guy hates him. And I don't want to give this podcast a free shout out here, but Nima on the Italian football podcast hates Dumfries. He says Dumfries is brainless.
That's definitely not true.
I know. It's crazy.
Dumfries' positioning on the field is actually insane. I talk about it all the time. Those Dutch boys showed out. Shout out Dutch. I love the Netherlands. I'll talk about the Netherlands whenever I can. But Dumfries' positioning from a wingback position is actually incredible. He knows the exact times to get forward, to get into the box, and he's able to track back so fast. He literally owns the right side of the field whenever he's playing. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing bad to say about Dumfries, and I do want to ask you guys a question. From like a goal scoring threat, I can't think of another outside back or wing back that's ever played that has been like a guy that's so threatening to score goals all the time, apart from like Teo on some streaks where he gets forward and scores goals.
Teo can get streaky. I would say DeMarco can get forward and is definitely
not in the same way where like
neither of those guys are in the same realm of Dumfries in terms of being a threat.
Yeah, I'd say there are a lot of wing backs that we've seen in the past or in today's game that help in an attacking manner, but more so by providing assists. Dumfries provides assists as much as an attacking wingback does, but he also provides goals as much as like a number 8 would or a number 10 would in the midfield, which I think is what Bosa's point was there.
Just ask Anthony Robinson. He knows.
Yeah,
that's literally anybody that's ever played against him. He's such a pain in the ass to go against. And part of it is like, you could maybe say he's mindless. Sure. Like, I don't think he's the most technically gifted player at all, but he's just built in this weird, like physical dominant way where he's just like a classic. He doesn't do anything that crazy. He just runs up and down the field better than everybody else on the field.
He's incredibly physical. Incredibly.
Yeah, he's horrible to play against, but we can move on from here. That's enough about Dumfries.
Well, moving on to another premier goal scorer, we may be on the brink of the return of the Italian legend Mario Balotelli. He is on
You
the
go with that legend word again. Balotelli.
Balotelli's a legend. Come on, more so a legend than Zapata.
Yes, correct.
Although on this note, who came out and just said, "Oh, Bonucci." Bonucci just came out and said
Yeah, he did.
that Zapata was one of the worst players he's ever played against, and he would have nightmares the nights before he played out Atlanta.
He did say that.
Bonucci.
Also, to piggyback on top of that, Buffon came out and was like, I would have retired when I was like 34, but I had Chiellini, Bonucci, and Barzagli in front of me, so I kept playing. Because it was like nobody got through them.
Let's get back to on topic here, guys. Balotelli is maybe going to sign with Genoa. And I did see some things that Gilardino on the hot seat is if Gilardino goes, this deal is kind of dead, is what I have seen separately from this. Do you guys like this as a solution for Genoa? Because I have a very strong opinion on it.
I think Genoa just need attackers. I think if Genoa get rid of Gilardino, that's a dumb move. He's a good manager. They kind of screwed him by not providing players. Listen, is it the best solution? Probably not, because we know who Balotelli is. But you need to get some strikers in there after you let both Retegui and Goodmanson go.
Yeah, I don't know where Balotelli's been as of late, and he will probably get super frustrated on Genoa so fast because they're going to be so bad. But this could be like a Quag situation. Quagliarella would put in goals till he was 92 in Serie A, so maybe Balotelli still got some juice.
But Quagliarella is just more disciplined and more of a team player than Balotelli.
Generally better.
Loves it.
My problem with this screams we're panicking as a team. Like let's just go get Balotelli. Like we need goals. Like that's insane. That's like not. I would assume there is a better solution or a more well thought out solution where you can find somebody else that maybe you can get on free, bring him in. That isn't Mario Balotelli, who is always at risk at ruining the squad chemistry, ruining your training sessions, and then just getting a red card in games where you can't get a red card. And he's also never played for like a bad team where you have to play in weird ways.
Yeah, he's not going to do much pressing out there, and he's going to get pissed off if he has to play to a specific way that Gilardino wants him to. But just off the top of my head, players that are free that I know in the striker position are like Ben Yedder and Anthony Montreal, or whatever his name is, from Manchester United. Would they come to Genoa? Like that would be a downgrade, I think, for them. So they're probably not too thrilled of the idea. And Balotelli is Italian. So he's probably like, hey, I'll go play in Italy again. So I'm sure, yes, it's kind of a panic buy, but at this point with the market closed and not doing business when the market was open, they have to kind of panic.
Not for nothing, but if Genoa do stay up this season, this is simply a play to sell tickets and sell jerseys, and that just helps you for the budget next year. I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
That could be true. And Motts, want to round it out here? This is a really good.
Last quick shout of the day, boys and girls, paisanos. Was watching the Italy-Israel game today on the train back to the city, and was listening to my AirPods, and the announcers were talking about Nicola Fagioli, and they said that the Juventus players often poke fun at him and call him a nickname. They call him Nick Beans because Fagioli in Italian means beans in English. And it made me laugh because Logs and Vos were the first people to create that nickname, Fagioli Beans. And it sounds like the Juventus players are listening to Calcio Culture because they are taking our nickname. That, or they just found out that the translation was beans. I'm going to tell myself that it goes into Calcio Culture because I am a big Juventus fan. I love them and I talk about them a lot. So I want them to love me too. So in my head, they're listening.
They definitely love you, Motts. The Juventinis love Motts. And we should be.
That's a great way to round that out, Motts. I love that shout. If the Juventus players listen to this, how happy would you be?
I'd be thrilled. I'd be so happy.
Easily, this was Wes McKinney, like going on Google Translate, trying to learn there.
But speaking of beans, 2 games happened this weekend for the Azzurri. We had talked about it a month ago now. I think it was exactly a month, the last international break. Spalletti was kind of hot seat. Every game was going to matter for him going forward. And this weekend, we had 2 different results, 2 really different games. Italy played Belgium on Friday, and then they played Israel today, earlier today on Monday. Against Belgium, they drew 2-2. Against Israel, they won 4-1. The Belgium game is a little bit difficult for me to analyze. They went up 2, and then Pellegrini got a red card, and then they conceded twice. So, I mean, I'm not going to read too much into that in terms of how they played, what happened. But the things that I do want to pull out of this game were Pizzilli made his debut. And that's a guy that's been good for AS Roma. I'm not sure he's going to be a guy that's on this team every international break. I think just getting him through and getting him some time. The other thing to pull out of this, Retegui scored again and Cambiasso scored in this game. On the Pellegrini red card, for me, it's just more of the same. He's been very bad this year, and there hasn't been any sign of it being righted, I think, in my opinion.
For me, this game was pretty easy to analyze. If Italy have 11 men the entire game, it's a blow. I only watched the highlights. They were playing some pretty soccer. I think Spalletti on the hot seat should no longer be a thing. You can see his fingerprints all over this Italy squad. Their 1-2 passing, their in tight area passing, so much better. Their movement off the ball, so much better. And if Pellegrini doesn't stupidly get a red card and they go down to 10 men, they're probably going to win this game 4-1 as well. They're dominating, playing beautiful soccer. And DeMarco, 2 assists as well. Both assists, Cambiasso assists and Retegui assists.
So, Vos, I have a question for you, especially on Pellegrini, because what do you think this man needs to do to get out of this slump? The reason I say that and why I don't really know the answer, typically when you look at players that are in slumps, it's usually strikers. They can't get the ball in the net. Pellegrini is not a striker. He does score goals, but I would say that he's more creative around the pitch in being in the right spaces, which is not something that you just kind of get back immediately from changing one or two things. So how does this man get back on track, not only for Italy, but more so for Roma?
The whole Roma situation is difficult to analyze because you look at that team and I don't think I can name anybody that's playing well, period. And as a team, they haven't played well at any point. And as like a creative player, he hasn't even had opportunities to really create. He's been very bad at finishing, which obviously like isn't the number one Pellegrini thing, like get in the box and score goals. It's more that creative aspect that he hasn't even been able to do because he hasn't had the right runners. And this might be confidence. I don't exactly know, but it's very bad at this point. And part of the reason why he still might keep getting rolled out there is they don't really have a player like that in the team at all. The closest guy is probably Fratesi, but he doesn't even do similar things. He's more of a goal scorer than a creative force. So I think that's part of it. Like they don't have a guy that can be like a true 10 and come into the national team and do the things that Pellegrini on his day can do. And Spalletti, I'm assuming you're just banking on him getting out of this. Like he needs to play. He needs to be the guy that, because when him and DeMarco have the right partnership, it is perfect because DeMarco holds the width. Pellegrini becomes like the left-sided 10 sort of thing. And it's perfect, but that's only if you get Pellegrini playing well. So I don't know if it's going to happen. Because in the league, it's not really like there's no sign of him getting better because Roma has no sign of getting better.
I'd also just say that last season, Pellegrini went into a long slump as well. And it wasn't until Daniel De Rossi came and kind of freed him up to allow him the freedom to go forward and not have to focus so much on getting back like Mourinho made him do, that made him kind of break out of the slump. So Pellegrini's he's not a spring chicken anymore. He's getting up there in age. So this could just be Pellegrini now. Like he could just have spurts of games where he is the old Pellegrini, but through the length of a season or the bulk of a season, it's going to be kind of, this is what you're going to get from him. But they definitely didn't miss him today against Israel. So you want to kind of...
Well, that's because they had somebody who I think as a trio,
mostly
are out on.
I don't think I've formed an opinion on this guy yet.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
I bet you're talking about two different people.
No,
I know who you're
for
talking
sure
about.
not like this guy.
Okay.
All right, let's get into the game here. Italy beat Israel 4-1 today. Israel isn't the best team, so I'm not going to overlook this. But as Mott said today, they played beautiful calcio the whole game. I particularly want to pick out Tonali. He is so goddamn good, and I'm really excited to see him and Barella in the same team. Outside of this, goal scorers, Gio Di Lorenzo scored a brace. I think Motts or Logs. Motts, that's who you were talking about. No, Logs, that's who you were talking about.
That's who I was talking about.
Yeah. Spalletti's son, he's going to keep playing no matter what in that right center back role. I don't really see a situation where this changes at any point in time with where we are. He's also been very good for Napoli. So Spalletti has something to lean on and have leverage. He's going to continue to come into the team. The other goal scorers, Frattesi scored again. Retegui then scored on a penalty kick. I thought it was a bad penalty, but he needed to get a penalty off his back. It looked kind of accidental, but I could be wrong. But then 2 national team debuts, Lorenzo Lucca from Udinese, who's a guy who's been pretty good this season, now linked to Juventus a little bit. Light links, I call them, right? And Daniel Maldini made his debut, and he had a hockey assist, which is the pass that sets up the assist pass. So it's a guy that I like. And a guy that I really don't like, who's Pellegrini's backup, which could be part of this, is Giacomo Raspadori, who had a very bad moment where he was 1v1 with the goalie and he just panicked and didn't do anything. It was very bad. But I mean, at this point, like, are you still defending Raspadori as the backup to Pellegrini, or do you think it should be somewhere else?
I mean, when you look at the front line, when you look at the options that Italy has to bring up with them, I don't see a world where Raspadori's not in the conversation. Do I think he's been as good as his potential was a season or two ago? Absolutely not. But again, they're light in that front line. When you think about it, who's the backup to Pellegrini unless Brescianini gets going and stays healthy and solidifies his position in the call-ups? I still think Raspadori gets the call. He's on the list. Raspadori, I hate to say it, has made it to the list. He absolutely needs to show us something to at least get us back to, okay, he's still young. He still has that potential that he had on SAS and needs to come back to form for sure.
I feel like we need us
free.
We have officially announced somebody has made the list on air.
Yeah, we got to publish it. But so then, Motts, this is who you were talking about, who you don't really have an opinion on, right?
Who?
Raspadori.
No, I was talking about Maldini. I haven't formed an opinion. I haven't watched him enough to form an opinion on Raspadori. I also don't have an opinion. I know that he's constantly linked with Juventus. He's like the anointed one in De Laurentiis' eyes. So we're never gonna get him. He has moments, but then consistently messes up. I don't think he should start game in and game out ever. I think he's a very good substitute. That's his ceiling right now. We'll see if he can break out of that. But I'm not totally against just kind of abandoning the number 10 position as a whole and playing like a 3-5-2 with Tonali, Fagioli, and Barella in the 3 midfielders, and then DeMarco and Cambiaso at the wingbacks.
It's definitely enough firepower not to have a 10. Plus, the way that Tonali's been playing, he's creative enough. I mean, the assist that he had to DeMarco, that usually was Pellegrini a couple games ago, not these last 2 games, I think in the last break. Like, that is the Pellegrini spot, and Tonali just stepped in and played it perfectly. That really reduces the need for Pellegrini to be Pellegrini.
That payback, Marco and Cambiaso on the wingbacks playing at such a high level and so creative. Italy doesn't necessarily need a number 10 to create with Tonali, DeMarco, Cambiaso, Barella when he's healthy. Fagioli obviously can pick a pass. So maybe with these players that are coming up, they're shifting out of necessarily needing that number 10 player.
Well, then the question becomes, if they abandon the number 10 / like second striker, I mean, I guess it would be transitioning to a second striker sort of thing, is who then is Retegui's partner?
Chiesa.
I forgot about Chiesa. Yeah, but Chiesa through the middle has always been the question mark.
I would probably say like Chiesa would pick up his normal spot on the wing, and then you throw Frattesi closer to Retegui because Retegui gets up anyways. He's not as creative, but I think that you don't necessarily need to ask him to be creative. Ask him to be a finisher next to Retegui, and then let Tonali, DeMarco, Cambiaso, Chiesa be the creators.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I think we're a couple of months from seeing Chiesa brought back into the squad, just given what's been going on there. But I'll still say it. I think Daniel Maldini could be a very good part if he continues on the trajectory. Motts, as somebody that hasn't watched it, did you see him today or no?
And I turned it off when he got subbed on. I'm not gonna lie.
I just think he's very interesting, and he's just different from everything that Italy has, and he's more like of a 1v1 tight space kind of guy, which I think the only person really that's like that is Cambiaso, and he's less like final third thinking player than Maldini is my.
I'm down for them to continue to call him up and just see what he adds. Right at this point, these games matter, yes, but do they actually matter? Not really. So just see what he's got. Change the pace. I'm in agreement. Also, the Azzurri Twitter sphere after the game didn't have bad words to say about him today, so that's always a positive.
I'll probably have to give Maldini a second chance. I'm obviously scarred from his time at AC. To be fair, he would be playing when we had Pellegrini, and that was just a bad time to be around for an AC fan. Maldini's turned into a journeyman in Serie, played for Spezia a couple seasons. Now he's on Monza. He obviously has the pedigree, and Italian media will not let you forget that they became the first threesome of family members to play for the Azzurri. I might have to give him a second chance. I will have to discount everything that he does in Serie A because Monza's so bad, but I'm willing to give him a second chance. I don't want to be such a hater for someone with Maldini blood, so we'll have to see how he does going forward.
He's also 23, so it could be good. But following this break, Motts, you said it. How do you feel about this team? Spalletti, I would totally agree. He's safe at this point. Like, he's not. Things would have to go so insane for him to lose his job now. Like, he's going to be okay. As a whole, though, how do you feel about this Azzurri team? Obviously, we're very far from the World Cup. And Chiesa is going to be a piece that comes in and changes things. But, like, where are we heat check-wise?
Well, I'm just confident in this team. And I think I was reading on Twitter some of the post-match interviews by the players. And I think my boy Riccardo Calafiori summed it up tremendously when he said, we're a completely different team than we were in the Euros. And you can see that when you just watch the games. We're dominating every game. We're in possession. We're creating opportunities. And that is what I saw in both of these games. So I think we're in a very, very good spot. We're no longer an Italian team that, hey, we're going to sit back, we're going to defend, then we're going to counter. It's very much, we don't care who we play. We played Belgium and dominated Belgium. Yes, Israel's not on our level, but we did what we had to do in dominating possessions, beat them 4-1. Before Spalletti, this game probably is 2-0, maybe 1-0, and it was just going to sit back, which that's not the way football is trending anymore. So heat check wise, I think Italy's in a very, very good spot. It's only going to get better as they continue to grow and be coached under Spalletti. And I said it before, you can really see Spalletti's fingerprints all over this team. They pass together just like Napoli did in their Scudetto winning year. They move around. They're all in different positions, just like Napoli did. I really, really like it. And I'm glad that Spalletti wasn't sacked because, sure, it wasn't the greatest Euros, but you can see what he's done over the past couple months now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is the time to call for Italy to win the World Cup in 2026, but I think that plays in their favor. Like you said, there's so much time between now and the World Cup. You definitely don't want to be peaking right now. This would certainly not be that time. They're certainly on the right trajectory, and I think that the timing actually works perfectly for Italy because of the young talent that they have coming through. It certainly gives them enough runway to solidify their spot if they are actually worth it to be in the was it squad of 26 or 23, however many they take to the cup. I think that this is really the best spot for Italy to be in as of today.
Definitely. And just to round this out, we don't get to talk about him too much, but I just want to take a minute. Riccardo Calafiori is so fucking good at soccer. It's insane.
You got to love the confidence out of him too. I mean, to go into that presser and to make such a statement like that. I mean, I know on the surface level, it's not the craziest thing to say, but as a newcomer to this squad to come out and be like, listen, this team is completely different. We are on the right track. We've gotten our shit figured out. You love to see that out of a young guy. He's obviously come to form. He's obviously got the confidence coming off of the last season, now playing consistently for Arsenal, playing in big games for Arsenal. He's turning out to be an absolute talent.
Yeah, and just to go one step further than just Calafiori, we did see what we talked about a little bit a couple episodes ago for, I think, what a very short spurt of time. I think it's 5 or 10 minutes, but we saw Calafiori, Bastoni, and Bongiorno all on the field at once, which was sick to see. And those three, like, yes, Riccardo Calafiori is so good at soccer, but Bastoni is so good at soccer as well. Also, forgot to shout out this girl. Don't know her name. She was on some soccer show, Sky Sports, asking about who's the best under 24 soccer player in the world. Not just defender, just straight up soccer player. And she said Bastoni, and the reasoning why, literally, there was two other guys on the show, and the guys were in awe of her answer. She gave a great answer, which she posted on her TikTok. But Bastoni is so good. On Italy, he moved over. He's playing out of position technically. And then Buongiorno, we see what he's doing with Napoli, and he can't even get in the squad because Calafiori and Bastoni. So Italy are in a great spot defensively, and that's a luxury because you didn't know where this was going to go post Chiellini and Bonucci.
Couldn't have gone better post Chiellini and Bonucci. I literally don't think it could get better than this. And Spalletti has a abundance of riches at his disposal at this point, with Barella coming back in. But with that, we're done with the Azzurri, and it's going to bring us to the new segment, way too early, team of the season. Honestly, guys, we had an international break. We had talked about the Azzurri. Not much has changed from last international break. So we had to kind of get creative what we were going to talk about. So at this point, we're like, okay, team of the season check-in, see where we're at. If you don't know any of this player, way too early. Way too early.
I think we're based on.
I think we are spot on. But this is a good list of seeing if there's guys you don't know on here, take some time to go and try to watch them. The guys that you do know, they're probably going to be here the whole year. It's been a very interesting start to the season. Before we do get into this, I did think this before we came on. I just remembered I wanted to ask both of you guys. Do you think any of these teams, apart from maybe Napoli, are close to hitting their top level yet? And this is, I would say, the traditional top 6, top 7 teams.
Probably not, right? I mean, Juventus.
Yeah, I don't.
Inter, definitely not. Milan, they can't put 2 games together. You know who I think probably is at close to their top level?
Empoli.
Lazio and Empoli.
I agree.
Yeah.
Lazio, I agree. It's interesting because we've had a lot of good games and a lot of good team performances, and we're not even close to the best product we're going to see yet. Even from a Napoli perspective, with how good as they've been, they're going to get even better. And I would just have expected at this point, maybe Inter and like one of Juve or Milan to be close to like, oh, this is what they're going to be for the rest of the year. And nobody's really there yet. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why we are doing a way too early team of the season, because they are team of the season for right now. But some of these players could fall off because it obviously isn't 10 games in, but they could continue to do what they're doing and be team of the season at the end of the season.
Well, with that being said, let's give these guys some flowers because we may not be able to give them flowers at the end of the season.
That's a good point, Lugs. I like that. Starting with the GK. The sexy pick here is Di Gregorio. 1 goal conceded, ton of clean sheets, but hasn't had to do anything. How many shots did he have? Like 4?
He's got like 3 saves all season.
Yeah, I will say one of those saves was a really good save, but other than that, it's been like little dribblers as well. So could not go with him. Both let them know who we went with for the goalkeeper team in way early team on the season.
Sir,
for me, if you've been watching Serie A at all this year, it's very obvious who this pick needs to be, and it's Vanja Milinkovic-Savic from Torino. This guy has literally stolen 3 games for them already, and they've only played 7. He came out for 1 game, and the goalkeeper situation was abysmal. I don't know where this came from because he's never been this good. He's always been okay. And now he's the best goalkeeper in the league right now by a large margin.
It's not very close. No, but it's also, you wonder how it hasn't been this guy for years before. He's 6'7", gigantic man and has been a centerpiece for this Torino pretty hard to break down team, even back with Juric, for years. So it's incredible that he's only being now seen, but he actually has. But he's absolutely stolen. He's a thief.
I think that's why, maybe because Torino was so hard to break down. They only allowed 36 goals last year, so he didn't have to necessarily. It was kind of like the Di Gregorio now, right? Like he didn't have a ton of opportunities to save the ball because they were so hard to break down. Now Torino's playing much more open, so he's got a lot more opportunities to make saves, and we're seeing him make saves. Those mentioned, he saved at multiple points. He saved the PK against Atalanta in the 88th minute, saved a clear one-on-one goal scoring opportunity against Venezia to get them a tie for that game. I think he has 34 total saves on the season so far. He is playing very well, stealing games for Torino, which we said in the preview of the season that you need your goalie to steal you points if you want to go far or have a good season. And also, he is the brother of one of my favorite players. Just had to get Sergei Milinkovic-Savic a shout out as well, just because I love him.
But this guy on the season, his XG against him is 12.2, and he's only had 8 goals against. That's through 6 games. That is a pretty wide margin, especially given how XG is calculated. So this man is making a huge difference from between the pipes, and I think it's going to continue to show. This is a position that momentum is huge for. I don't see him falling off. If at all he does, it won't be very quick.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think a good way of looking at this early team this season is partially how big of an impact are you having for your team? Like, because some of these guys, the stats aren't quite as good. They're not as high in the table, but it's just like tremendous performance from an individual that like we can just see going on. And Milinkovic-Savic is the best example of that, probably literally stealing games. But we're going to go into the outfield players. We set this up as a 4-3-3. We thought it made the most sense to get the right players into the team. There are going to be some notable misses because of that, because we had to bounce some guys out. But we're going to start at left back with a guy that we've probably talked about every week we've come on the pod with how good he's been. And it was really unanimous. Nuno Tavares getting slotted in here. First full season in Serie for Lazio, a Lazio team that we have loved. And he has really been a key piece of that. 5 assists so far this season and 5 starts. That's really ludicrous numbers. And it doesn't look like that's going to change. And I expect him to continue to contribute in this way because all of Lazio's goals, not all of them, but a ton of them have been Nuno Tavares off the left, slotting it to Dia and Castellanos through the middle. And this is clearly the side they want to attack. They have Zaccagni there, and Nuno is adding so much more to this team.
I mean, leading the league in assists from the left back position, and he's not really a left wing back. It's a back 4. So to be doing that from a back 4 left back position, absolutely incredible. This guy was an outcast from Arsenal in years back. He had a couple of loan spells to Ligue 1. He's finally finding his stride after a season in Marseille last year. So and again, assists are truly dependent off of the players that you have around you, obviously, but he's putting the ball in places that are going to give his team the best opportunity to score clearly. And I think just going back to Vos's point about how he decided on this, each of these positions and each of these guys that we picked is truly MVP conversation for their each individual squads. And this Lazio team is not in the position that they are in, not as hot as they are without Nuno.
I'm trying to look up right now. Do we know how much Lazio paid for him this season?
He might have been free. Because I don't think that
loan transfer.
He's still so he's still owned by Arsenal.
So he's still owned. So I mean, you're barely putting any money in, and you're getting 5 assists in 5 games. That's great from Latito. Great bit of business. That's what you need if you want to kind of outperform your projection on the season or where people think you're capable of finishing. You need players to, what I always say, is outperform their contract. I'm sure Nuno's probably making $1 million, maybe a little bit more because he's coming from the Prem, but he's doing way more than what the money that they're spending on him or the money they're giving him. And if he continues, Lazio is going to continue in this form and finish higher than projected them to finish.
Well, what's crazy about this is it's a loan with an option to buy, and the option is 6 million euros.
So, I mean, if you're Lazio, you better take advantage of that because he's already outperformed the $6 million valuation.
Definitely. And on this, we did want to include some honorable mentions here. Given that it's the way Torello team this season, there are guys that are competing, and there are a couple spots here where there is somebody that can maybe get in. And at left back, we had Federico Di Marco, obviously a traditional left wing back, but would fit in the left back role in this team. For me, he hasn't done enough to displace Nuno Tavares with how crazy good he's been. But from a Di Marco perspective, it's been more of the same. This is what he's been doing for years, and he's amazing at it. The stats aren't quite there. He has a goal and an assist, but Inter as a whole haven't really been able to get kick-started fully. And there's only so much Di Marco can do from the left side, but I think every single game he's been one of the best players on the field.
Well, the thing with DeMarco is he's one of the only Inter players that is in their stride right now. Like he is where he should be. He's in pure midseason form. I will say, in terms of this team this season, I think we had to discount him a little bit just because a lot of his performances have come in the spotlight of the national team, which haven't been Serie A performances. So we did have to take that out a little bit.
Yeah, and listen, we are a real Calcio podcast. We're not going to give you the mainstream players like EA or FIFA would do and just put everyone's players that everybody knows as team of the season, even though this is the way too early team of the season. We're actually looking or watching the games and looking at the players playing well, and whether they're popular or not, they are playing the best. So they should be rewarded rather than FIFA or EA or other games just giving it to the people that are the most well-known players.
Motts, that was so well said and segues us perfectly into our starting left center back of the way too early team of the season, and Mattia Vitti from Empoli, left-footed center back, 7 games, 7 starts for an Empoli team that we've been raving about nonstop. Very simply, Empoli have been the hardest team to break down, and as a result of that, their best center back is making the team.
100%. I mean, Colombo wasn't going to be making this list at all, but from an Empoli perspective, you have to include one of their center backs. They've both been phenomenal. VT has played every single minute of this season for Empoli, and that's astounding for the results that they've gotten. Again, I just mentioned that I think that Empoli is one of the only teams that I think are at their ceiling at this point. Again, we talked about it before. They're just gonna grind out draws all season. In order to do that, they need to have a stout back line, and VT is leading it like no other.
790s so far, like literally playing the full 90 every start this year is pretty wild too for a defense that's been this good.
Yeah, and I think that it's a defense that is, for majority of every game that they played, are defending for probably 75 of minutes of the 90. So he is constantly man marking, constantly clearing balls, constantly winning aerial duels. He had to be on this list because Empoli have let in 4 goals this season, and he's their leader back there.
And one thing to say here, another Italian left-footed center back.
Yeah, that's true. And that brings us into another left-footed Italian center back. We're breaking the trend. We're going 2 left-footed center backs in our back 4. The other one, Alessandro Buongiorno from Napoli. I think this was a very obvious pick. When he has come out of this Napoli team is really when you see his impact. He literally just deletes whatever side of the field he's on. It's unfortunate that he can't get into the Azzurri team just because of how the setup is done. But this guy at this point is, in my opinion, the best center back in the league right now.
It's kind of crazy because you do notice how important he is to this team when he's not on the field more. And obviously when he's playing, you do see it, but it's really one of those players that his absence is huge. And you saw that in the first couple of games with Napoli preseason.
First game, Verona,
3-0. He wasn't on the field at all. He was hurt. So this guy is a pivotal part of that Conte system. And if the season does progress on and you see him taking some breaks, you will notice that this back line of Napoli is not even remotely as strong.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to say it to anybody is he did not play the full 90 minutes against Verona. They scored 3 goals. He has played every single game since then. They have allowed total 1 goal. And it's 99%, not 99%, but it's vastly because of Buongiorno. He takes the pressure off Rachmani on the left side. Rachmani can shift over more on the right-hand side, being that Di Lorenzo is probably slightly weaker as the right back. He's just taking up the entire left field. You can't get by him. You can't beat him in the air. He is great on the ball. He's fantastic. He is the best center back in the league now because Bremer got hurt.
Was hurt.
Yes. Bremer would absolutely, and that's the reason we had to knock. So Bremer doesn't get an honorable shout. He just gets he's hurt, and that's why
he gets some last.
He's out. Yeah, he gets a lot shot. He's out for the season. So he cannot rake the way too early team of the season because he doesn't have a chance of being here at the end. But there is one guy, also a Juventus player, that we did want to do a shout out for, and I'll let Motts do it because it's a guy we're a big fan of this guy in the pod.
The person Vos is alluding to is Federico Gatti. Obviously, Juventus has had the best defense in the league to start the season. They've allowed 1 goal, and that goal was through a PK, not even run of play. Federico Gatti, for the large part of the beginning of the season, has been a staple within Thiago Motta's defense, whether he's playing right back or right center back. He's always there. He's a bruiser. One thing that I love about Federico Gatti is you see a lot of Chiellini in him. When he saves, like blocks a shot, clears the ball, wins a tackle, he gets up and celebrates like he scores a goal. You'll love to see the passion out of Gatti. Came from this is a guy from 3 seasons ago was laying brick and playing immature, or what's it called? Amateur soccer. And now he's the captain of Juventus, as I mentioned, a staple of their team. Would not make the list because Buongiorno edged him out, and so did VT, but needed to have an honorable mention. And then Bremer has to get a Motts shout because he would be the best center back in the league if he didn't tear his ACL.
One thing I will say about Gatti, because obviously we do love him for the bruise that he is, that Motts just said, he has one of the highest pass completion percentages in the league at this point. Now, center backs typically have higher percentages because they are playing the short passes, but when you're in this Motts system and you're playing out from the back, you cannot be making stupid passes. You cannot be letting the team get it in your final third from your center back, and he's not doing that. He's got like a 95% pass completion. It's been incredible to watch. I think that he'll keep that up throughout the season because that's just something that's just in his head. He's like, no stupid passes. Let's play the safe ball. I'm not going to be the reason that the other team gets it.
Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about Gatti. It's just Buongiorno is better and has been better. And I did want to just comment on this. The way that Napoli play, and part of the reason why we see Buongiorno as so good is there is a ton of 1v1 defending that happens because they play a lot in transition. And Conte is just like, Rachmani, Di Lorenzo, Buongiorno, you guys are just defending whoever's attacking at you without help. And it happens a couple times a game, and they're only able to do that because of how good, particularly Buongiorno has been.
That's valid. And so on the other side, typically are defending with the ball, and when they're not defending with the ball, they have multiple men behind the ball, so they're kind of smothering the other opponent, whereas Napoli and Buongiorno are doing a lot of 1v1. That's fair.
Definitely. But we did have, this is our only Juventus player who made the team, the official team, not as a shout. A guy that I was very upset when he left the Rossoneri. He is now a Bianconeri, and I'll let Motts do all the talking here.
Yes, and that person would be Kalulu. Loebs was also upset as well. I was a little skeptical on when we brought Kalulu in because obviously we could not get Calciori, couldn't get Todibo, and then Kalulu was kind of plan C. But oh my goodness, Giuntoli looks like a genius. Bought him for half the price of Calafiori, half the price of Todibo, and has played more minutes than Calafiori has this season, more minutes than Todibo, has saved Juventus in multiple games. Those are more towards the Champions League in terms of saving goals, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about those games. But he has been, since he's broken into the team, he has been starting every game since then, and he's started at right back, right center back, and now since Bremer's out, he's starting at left center back. So that goes to show his versatility. He's played 3 different positions. Great on the ball, very good passer, great man marker. Is somewhat small, but makes up for it in his athletic ability. Kalulu's been a breath of fresh air. I saw on Twitter, Giuntoli is going to activate that buy option that he has in the contract for 16 mil. Why would you not? As long as he can stay healthy, I could see Kalulu playing almost every single game under Thiago Motta and for Juventus.
I mean, I'll definitely say I was simply not surprised by how good Kalulu is this season. And as much as it makes Giuntoli look like a genius, I have to look at Ibra now in the front office for AC Milan, who played with Kalulu in Kalulu's best season, not to make an argument to keep him. He's perfect for the Motts system. He's phenomenal on the ball. Lo said it earlier on the pod a couple episodes ago. He never makes mistakes. He's so sound on the back line. Similar to Gatti, just plays how he needs to, does not give up the ball. Very smart, a great partner in the back line. He will never be the best center back or the best defender on his back line, but just a great partner, adaptable, versatile. I can't say enough good things about Kalulu. He keeps up this form. they would have zero reason not to activate the buy. And sad to see Bremer go down, but Kalulu was slotted just fine.
Yeah, just to wrap up on Kalulu, you both kind of alluded to it. What's really working in his favor now is his ability to play multiple positions. With Bremer going down, he's kind of stepped in to be a full-time center back, which I don't think they had ever intended him to be. They had kind of seen him as maybe the right back rotator with Savona or whoever it might be. And he's just going to be in this team. I think with the injuries that have gone on, like he's just going to continue to play and it's going to work in his favor tremendously. I do have one honorable mention here. You guys may disagree with me, but I think he deserves a shout. And that's Dodo from Fiorentina. He has the most minutes played for Fiorentina in the entire team, which is insane because these are roles where you're just running the entire fucking game. Like it's crazy. He's been very good in every game. Granted, Fiorentina haven't hit their highest level, so he hasn't been able to overly contribute offensively. But I like where Fiorentina are trending, and I can see this guy being in the real talk for team this season at the end of the year, depending on how things shake out at Fiorentina, where they finish in the table and what they're capable of doing in some of the European competitions as well.
Yeah, this was a guy Fiorentina was incredibly excited about when they brought him in either before last season or the season before. A decently high profile purchase out of Shakhtar, I believe, but uber talented. Nice to see that he's coming to form here, and especially shining through at a position that you typically don't notice. I like that Dodo is having a season for Fiorentina.
Cool. That brings us into our midfield three, and this was by far the hardest discussion to be had. In our general consensus was there hasn't really been anybody that's been phenomenal, apart from maybe one guy who we'll talk about here. But again, like we said, we did a midfield three. Should we just rattle them off and then we'll discuss them? Or do you want to go one by one?
Rip them.
So in our midfield, we have Ederson from Atalanta, Samuel Ricci from Torino, and then we threw in Florian Thauvin, sometimes plays as a wing, sometimes plays in the midfield. We'll consider him our 10 with 2 8s, Florian Thauvin at the peak. We'll start with Thauvin because I think it's very clear why he's in here. And we talk about impact on a team. He's from Udinese and has probably had the biggest impact of anybody on that team to start the season.
He's 100% the reason that Udinese is off to such a hot start. Again, traditionally a winger in his age, they've moved him more to the midfield spot. But 3 goals and 1 assist from your midfielder, that's certainly going to get you a shout here. He's probably one of the more stat-specific picks that we put on the list. But nonetheless, 3 goals for this Udinese team who typically don't outpace their XG. That's great production, especially playing behind Lucca, who's started to come to form a little bit. Thauvin been a great addition in the midfield, and that's why he's getting his flowers now. I hope he gets his flowers at the end of the season.
The other guy that this one for me, now that I'm looking at this again, this one is an absolute lock for me, and I think it should be a lock for a lot of people, and that is Samuel Ricci at Torino. He's kind of been the core piece of this Torino revolution we're seeing and transitioning to a more ball-dominant team. Obviously, Duvan Zapata has also really helped with that. But this is the guy at the base of the midfield, pulling the strings, pacing the game for this Torino squad. I don't think Vanoli could do what he's doing without Ricci. And we've seen that then get even brought up further. He got his first call-ups for the national team. And when he's played for the national team, has also been phenomenal. Granted, we're only talking about Serie A. But this guy's the 7 most minutes logged for Torino in a position where you have to run a lot. You're doing a lot of things. This is a guy that I thought maybe not have a shout in the national team, and now he really does going forward.
Yeah, this guy might be next up for Italy midfielders. I'm seeing very high praise from multiple people, whether it be on Twitter or people like Pep Guardiola, for example, putting praise on him. He could pick out a pass. His pass completion percentage is 86%, which is somewhat low for a midfielder, but the passes that he's pinging to in this system are like the diagonal balls to the wing backs for them to get crosses in. So they're very hard passes. And as Vos mentioned, he's pulling the strings, beautiful player to watch. And I would just like to reiterate our points. This midfield can really show you how we took our time to really look at the players, who's playing well and how their teams are performing. Because we could have easily just went like Hakan, Barella, and some Locatelli or Zambo, but we really dug deep, and I think Samuel Ricci is deservingly this regista of this team, way too early team of the season.
What I'll say about Samuel Ricci is, and not that he's at this level yet, and maybe it's a little bit because of the conversations he's been in terms of who Man City's looking to bring into their midfield, but he's such a pivotal piece of this midfield three, quiet maestro, I'll call him. Not necessarily a Rodri, not necessarily a Zubimendi, but definitely in that realm of player where he's the one that's pulling all the strings across the field. He's the reason why players are in the right position. He's moving around off the ball. He's allowing this team to progress. He's got one of the highest progressive carry stats in the entire league. And so, again, like Vo said, Torino's not Torino without this guy. His defensive stats, not terribly high. But again, he certainly overcompensates when they have the ball, when they're in possession, being able to advance the ball through him and creating their offense from their holding midfielder.
I think his defense is also pretty underrated. He averages one tackle a game, one interception, and one clearance a game. So knowing that Torino are going to be in a shell for a majority or a portion of a game, having him being able to clean up and do things defensively does help as well.
And he almost scored an absolute banger against Inter last weekend, which I didn't know he had in him. That brings us to our third midfielder. And for us, this was hard because, again, we said nobody's been great so far this season, which has made it difficult. There's been a lot of guys that have been good and are progressing to better areas. But for us, we took Ederson from Atalanta. He's logged a ton of minutes. Atalanta, granted, haven't been great all year, but they're trending in the right direction. They're definitely going to be one of the best teams in the league. And it's a guy that isn't going to blow up the stat sheet, but logs major minutes and just covers every blade of grass on the pitch every single game. And that's why he gets into this team.
100%. I mean, this guy is the definition of an engine and probably one of the most consistent players from last season into this season for Atalanta, given the fact that they've lost some. They've brought in a bunch of new guys, but he's been that core of the team for now a couple of seasons. But I think he led the league last year in ground covered and continues to do that. Having that at your disposal for a team in Italy that can be a high-paced, spread-out game, this guy has been phenomenal. He's continued to be phenomenal, and I think that a lot of people will see that come year end here.
I think that the reason why this guy got into the squad here is one, because like Vos mentioned, not a lot of guys blowing us away in the midfield, but what he's done for Atalanta with the amount of change that has happened from last season to this season in Atalanta, right? They lost Scamacca, they lost Scalvini, they lost Coop Miners, they bought a bunch of players. They didn't have a whole lot of stability, and that's what he's been able to deliver at Atalanta. He's playing game in and game out. As Lowe's mentioned, he's covering every blade of grass. He has a different partner next to him as Atalanta plays that 3-4-2-1. He's got a different midfielder, whether it's Somerset or Garoon or whoever's next to him. It's always different, and he doesn't. So he kind of has to adjust his play to who's playing next to him. And every single time, he is not missing a beat. It's like he's played with them his whole entire career. And I just mentioned Ricci's stats defensively. This guy is an absolute tank defensively. He averages almost 2 tackles a game, almost 2 interceptions a game, and also 1 clearance. So he has a goal as well. And that goal was an assist. That goal was a bullet against Genoa too. So he really can do everything.
And for the midfield, we had 2 honorable mentions here. 3-man midfield, got to throw in 2. I will let you guys talk about one little lad from the lake, because you said and I think this is a good shout. I don't think he doesn't break into the team for sure, but a good shout.
No, but I do want to, you got to give Como a quick shout here. Nico Paz, one of the youngsters that they brought in, Real Madrid academy player. This guy has been phenomenal for them. I know that it can go underseen, I guess, not noticed, because he's playing for Como and they've had a rough, rocky start to the season, but he is an animal on the front foot in the final third. He takes long shots. He's creative. He makes the through balls. He's everywhere. He's high pressing, high energy. He should be. He's like 19 years old, but I think this guy has a bright future ahead of him, and I think Czech is extremely happy to have this kind of talent in his squad.
Yeah, I'm not going to add too much about him. Just you're throwing on Como, if you're watching a Como game, Nico Paz is going to jump out off the screen. He's going to be an electric watch. Like you might not know who he is, and then you watch for 10 minutes and you're like, okay, that's Nico Paz. That's all I'm going to say.
Definitely.
And it passes the eye test.
He does pass the eye test.
Yeah. And he's also just been like a core cog of that team, and they've been progressing better. And that brings me to my pick. I think this is a guy that also passes the eye test. He hasn't blown up the stat sheet yet. But from Parma, Adrian Bernabé, he won Olympic gold medal this summer. And then he was one of the core pieces of this Parma team that came up. He's played all but 10 minutes so far this season, and he kind of plays in that number 10 role for this team. Sometimes plays a little bit deeper. And this is a Parma team that has to defend a lot. They have to run a lot, and they counter very hard. And he is usually the guy that's picking the first pass in every single counterattack, either going to Dennis Mann, who's been phenomenal, or Wally up top, who's also been phenomenal. This is a guy that's just playing every game. When they're in possession, he's the guy that's on the ball, and you should watch him. I don't think he's going to be on Parma very long. I think he's that good. And he's had a tremendous season. The only reason I don't have him really competing just yet with Ederson is Parma has really tailed off in the last couple of weeks.
And no red cards from this guy.
And no red cards. Very important when you're playing for Parma to not get red cards. But that brings us into our front three. This one was a lot easier than the rest, I have to say. It's pretty clear who should be in every role. Starting with right wing, Logs, you want to talk about this guy a little bit?
Captain America, baby. Christian Pulisic, hottest man alive right now. Touted as one of the best wingers in not only Serie A, but Europe by many a manager. He has been going off the rails for both not only AC Milan, but also for the US. This guy's unstoppable right now. I talked about it a couple weeks ago. I don't know how long this form can keep up, but he's just playing out of his goddamn mind. He's making shit happen out of God nowhere with nothing. He's a one-man wrecking ball. Had a really, really, really tough go at Chelsea, but he's finally coming to form. I talked about Moise Kean. Sometimes you need a guy to come a little bit out of the spotlight. AC is a little bit less out of the spotlight than Chelsea, and he's really taking advantage of that. I really hope that this form continues. He's scoring goals. He's assisting. He's high energy. He's playing off the right. He's coming in, shifting at the 10. He's easily AC Milan's most important player right now, best player, and it would be a detriment to our pod here if we did not include him in the way too early game of the season.
Yeah, this guy's got to be included. And what I'll say about Pulisic is this season, he's taken that next step. Last season, he had great numbers. He had 10 goals, 10 assists, which he's doing that again, putting up great numbers. But what he's doing this season is he's performing in big games. He's getting goals and in big contributions in big games and in big moments, right? He scored in the Champions League. He scored against Inter. He had that great run against Inter. Actually, he got past 5 defenders. He scored. He put the goal, the game-time goal against Fiorentina. Obviously, they lost the game, but that was a great goal as well. He's scoring against that. He scored the goal against Liverpool. I know AC Milan lost, but he's scoring or assisting or contributing in these big games, which he didn't do so much last year. So he's clearly taken that next step in his career, and you just have to hope that continues to happen game in and game out as it has. But the way that he's playing right now, there's no signs as to why it will not continue.
5 goals, 2 assists in 7 games from a winger. Literally, you can't really do better than that. That's insane numbers. So I don't think there's much more that needs to be said about Christian Pulisic. I hope that he can keep this up for the rest of the season, because if he does that, then he's actually going to be talked about as one of the best wingers in the world. Right now, he's on form alone. He's there for sure. But we'll see what it comes to at the end of the season. We did want to give a shout out to somebody else here. Romanian guy, first time in Serie A, Dennis Mann from Parma. I think we've talked about him a ton. Every time we referred to Parma, this has been one of their best players. He's a goal threat. He's an assist threat. So far this season, 7 games played, 7 starts, 3 goals, 1 assist on a team that's always going to have a hard time scoring because of how they play in that counterattack, and they need that lethality. And this is a guy who might not be here by the end of January. He might not be here by the end of next summer. It's highly likely he moves on. This is a really good player. If you haven't watched him yet, take the time, put on a Parma game. He will jump off the screen at how good he is.
Electric is the word.
Yeah, definitely an electric player. We're going to kick it over to the other winger now before we go to the 9, because that's an easy discussion. A left wing from Napoli, we have Kvaratskhelia, Kvaratskhelia. This was another one that was an easy decision, I think, for all of us. Wasn't much of a debate here. This guy's been phenomenal. 3 goals, 2 assists, and 7 starts. And from an eye test, from if you watch Napoli at all, he is the most important player on the field.
If you watch the Serie A at all, he's the best player in the league. He might be the only player that could be on this list that doesn't deserve it at the end of the year just because his raw talent. Maybe him or Liao, but them being in the same position kind of would counteract that. But he's just must-watch TV. He's so good. We say it all the time. He sacrifices for the team. He's going to sit in the shell with Napoli to play how Conte wants, and then he's going to be electric on the counterattack. We're even seeing him kind of take on a little bit of a new role this year under Conte, where he's not necessarily always playing on that touchline as he did with Spalletti super wide. He's coming in, shifting more towards the middle, playing as a second striker off Lukaku, playing somewhat as a number 10, and sometimes really could just play everywhere. Can play off the right, can play off the left, can play in the middle, can score, can assist, can do it all. Must watch TV. I love this guy. This is another guy that, I mean, hopefully Napoli can keep on to him, but he could be going to PSG. He could be on Real Madrid. He could be on Barcelona. He's got that type of talent. Hopefully he could stay in this league, but he is balling this year, and I only expect it to continue under Conte and under Napoli.
Yeah, not much more to say than that. Motts hit the nail on the head. I think the one thing that people notice about him the most is obviously his on the ball talent, his direct dribbling, his dribbling skill. He's got the ball on an absolute string. But the thing that always surprises me when he pulls it out and he does it consistently is he takes out multiple lines of defenders with one pass. Mm-hmm. And he does it all the time. And it's a beautiful through ball, maybe to the opposite side or to Lukaku running through. But he takes out defenders at nauseum with that pass. And that just leads to such easy goal opportunities. And I think that that's something that people should take advantage of and noticing other than his dribbling skills.
To me, it's insane that he isn't recognized as like one of the best players in the world yet. And I think it's because he's Georgian, realistically. Like, if this guy was Dutch, if this guy was Spanish, if this guy's Italian, it would be like, oh, Ballon d'Or conversation. He's insanely good. He's good enough to play for every team in the world. And it's literally just because of that he's not. And I still think outside of people that are like Calcio fans, Serie A fans, people don't know who he is yet. I honestly think, because otherwise he would be in these conversations.
He was his first year at Napoli because they won the Scudetto and they were in the Champions League. His second year, he had a sophomore slump with 11 goals and 6 assists. But he, based on the form they had in the first season, he should have had like 20 goals and 10 assists. So I think people just want to see him do it consistently again, which he's getting to that point under Conte. And I think at the end of this season, middle of next season, that is going to be the case where everybody knows his name. And then it's going to be tough for Napoli to hold on to him, obviously. But one thing I'll say as well that I forgot to mention the first go around about him is if you do not put 2 defenders on him, he's going to get by you. Like, you need to have 2 defenders on him every single time. If you are guarding him one-on-one, he will get by you, and then it's going to create a chance every single time.
Unless you're Davide Calabria, because that's the only time that he knows it.
Very true. Very true. I threw in one honorable mention here. He hasn't really played enough to make it into the team. But that's an Adamola Lookman from Atalanta. He started the season a little bit slow because he wasn't in the team for some off-field antics, notably trying to leave the club. But he has now played four games, 3 starts, 2 goals, 2 assists, and he looks amazing. He's an eye test guy right now that's phenomenal. And I'm happy that Atalanta were able to keep him because now him and Retegui have been flying up there, and it's been amazing to watch. So you should know who he is if you're a Serie A fan. If you haven't watched him a lot, take some time to do it. But that brings us on to the striker, and this is the easiest pick of the entire.
Was it? I wasn't. No. Lukaku's playing well. Dusan's got some goals.
Dusan's not team of the season. You can feel that.
No, I agreed with those. Listen, it wasn't. I don't want to say it was easy, but it was a clear favorite, and that person is Marcus Thuram, and that reason is because he is the number 1 goal scorer, tied with number 1 with number 1 goal scorer in the Serie A. But he's also getting assists as well. He's also getting his teammates involved. He's taking place in the build-up play. He's pressing when Inter doesn't have the ball. He has taken that next step this season in his career. I mean, last season he finished with 14 goals and 10 assists. At this season's start, I think how many goals? 7 goals and 3 assists right now. So looking to smash that from last season to this season. And yeah, he's just playing extremely well. He's what he lacked where'd he come from? The German league?
Yeah, but
he lacked there was kind of that being a number 9, that poke finisher, that poacher finishing. He has gotten that and more in Inter. He could score from outside the box. He could score with his head. He could score inside the box. He could chip a goalie. There's no way this guy cannot score anymore. And that's what he's added to his game coming to Inter.
There's points and times when 9s go through these phases of they can't miss. They know exactly where the goal is at all times, no matter where they are on the pitch. And that is Marcus Thuram right now. I think the other thing that's going unsaid here is that the only reason that we're not talking more about how mid Lautaro Martinez has been is because Thuram is carrying this Inter team. I mean, that's the only reason that we have not talked more about Lautaro not showing up for Inter is because Marcus Thuram has simply carried this team on his back. He needs a little bit more help, but that's also why he's on the way too early team of the season at the 9 spot, and it wasn't really that much of a discussion.
Yeah, we'll get into the obvious. There's obviously an honorable mention here because this is the 11th guy, and especially a striker who we're leaving out. But for Marcus Thuram, he's so much more than just a 9 that's putting away goals. Like he is like an outlet pass in the counter. He's an outlet pass when they're pressed deep. He makes those runs into the channels that a lot of 9s can't make because he's so athletic. And there's just no way. I mean, he's going to keep this up throughout the whole season because the amount of service he's getting and like headed goals he's put it in. Like this is why Lautaro scored so many goals last year. Just an endless amount of service. And he's picked up right place, right time kind of guy. And once you get that, that's when you can get scary numbers. Like Ciro Immobile was never the best technical player, but right place, right time, took a lot of penalties too, to be fair. But like that isn't something, that's something you get. And he's getting that now, which is huge.
Yeah, but he has that lethal finishing and that service to him, but he's even just as good as putting the ball into Lautaro.
Yeah, sure.
Part of the reason why Lautaro had 22 or 25 goals last season, because Thuram was so good at those on-the-ground crosses or making that extra pass. I will say because he's in such good form and can't seem to miss, like Logs mentioned, sometimes he does not make that extra pass that he would have made last year. So he could have more assists, but he goes for goal. But you can't fault the guy for doing that because it seems like everything he puts on target just ends up in the back of the net. So maybe as that starts to temper off or fade off, he might start adding the pass back into his game to then come up and Lautaro can start coming back and then he'll finish with 10 assists again. But the way that it's going now, I'm seeing easy 20, 25 goals for Thuram this season.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say on Thuram, so we can stop glazing him, is when you look at today's game, the best players are the ones that can play multiple positions. And a lot of the guys on this list that we just went through have been playing multiple positions. Thuram is not just a through ball 9. He's not just a target man 9. He's not just a false 9. He can also play so effectively off the wing and take on defenders with his dribbling skills. This man is potent at numerous different spots in the field. And again, just in the way that the game is morphing, you very rarely see a player that's just thriving in one spot. This guy is all over the pitch and can attack you from numerous different angles. So if you shut him down in one way, he's going to attack you at another. And that's 100% the reason he's so effective right now.
Perfect. And that brings us into our last honorable mention, joint top goal scorer with 7 goals. Atalanta, first season, Matteo Retegui. This is a guy that we love. We obviously keep talking about him. What knocks him off this list for me is he has 2 PK goals. Thuram has none. And then number 2, Inter are second in the league. And Thuram is the best player on the second best team in the league right now. So he gets that. From a Retegui perspective, though, he is doing nothing wrong apart from actually missing a couple of penalties. Everything else has been phenomenal. He's been phenomenal for Italy. He's been phenomenal in the league. He's getting a ton of service. And I see him continuing to get more and more goals as this Atalanta team continues to heat up. Similar vein to Thuram, to be fair. But Retegui is the guy at Atalanta that they're going to rely on to get a lot of goals because he is a true 9 on this team. He doesn't do much, He stands in the middle of the field, does a little bit of link-up play, which he has done very well, which I didn't think he had in his bag. And then he's just banging goals away. And again, I have no bad things to say about Retegui. He's been phenomenal. It's just Thuram has been better. Thuram's been a complete player.
Does your golden boot shout count if it's a tie?
Yeah, I think they both get it.
Yeah, listen, I would say this about Retegui. Well, number one, kind of stinks for Skamaka, tore his ACL and is just watching a man take his job on the sidelines. But if you could,
At club level and country level.
right, but if you could give this award out, or if Serie gave this award out, Retegui would win it, and that award would be most improved. We knew Retegui was good, right? We knew he could score goals. At Genoa, I think he finished last season with like 8, maybe 9. He's got 7 already. He's finishing a lot of their opportunities. And if you look at his goals, some of them are like he's jumping over center backs and putting a header directly in the top corner for the goalie to have no chance. We weren't seeing that game in and game out at Genoa. Maybe that's because they're not as attacking as Atalanta. He didn't have the service. But having the service is one thing. You have to put the chances away. And he is putting the chances away time in and time out. He's great in the air. He can finish with both feet. He's finishing poacher finishes with toe pokes as well. Very, very improved this season. Yes, he's on a better team, but we've seen a lot of guys go to a better team and flop and not be able to put the chances away that are created. So for me right now, Retegui did not make the way too early team of the season. Still chance maybe take Thuram's spot, but for Motts, he gets a Motts shout, most improved of the season. The way too early, most improved player.
Maybe we'll do a Motts award show at the end of the year. You want to make up some awards.
Annual Motts awards. I think that this is a way too early ranking.
Ranking of what?
Do you think this team of the season is way too
Way
early?
too early. Way too early.
Way
To the Paisanos, if I didn't yet, then I do think that this is a way too early team of the season.
Definitely. It definitely is. But that wraps up our 11 and our honorable mentions. We did want to take 1 second to just recognize a couple players that aren't in this team because they haven't really played a lot yet, who are going to most likely have a shout by the end of the season. Number 1 is Romelu Lukaku. He's only played a couple games, and he is one of the 3 best strikers in the league already, I would say at this point. Any grounds?
No.
He's not in there yet because he hasn't played enough. And in a way too early team of the season next month, he might be in there. I don't know. Another guy, same vein, Scott McTominay. He's literally could not be playing any better than he's playing. He's just not in here because he just started playing. Nicola Barella is not here. Fully expect him to be here by the end of the season. He has been out with injury. And then the last guy I just threw in because I was thinking about it.
You just can't help yourself.
I did not help myself. I want to talk about everybody. And I had to get one more serve in there. So Mardic from Atalanta has just been fully integrated in the team in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and is maybe their best midfielder. He is
midfielder. No, listen. Now you're just throwing guys in there. He's not gonna do the numbers.
He's scoring goals, bro. He's scoring goals left and right now.
He's scoring 1 goal. He's not gonna put up the numbers that Coop Miners did last year. He's not gonna look anything like Coop Miners did in that system. So he's not gonna get team of the season. Who I'll mention, since we're throwing out guys who haven't maybe came into form yet, is every single Juventus player. Watch out for them, because they're the team of the season at the end of the year is probably going to be Juventus' starting 11.
Crazy. The entire Juventus team got a match.
It's not, but that is our way too early team of the season, guys. That was insane. I can't wait to look at this at the end of the year to see if any of these were right. That'll be funny. But that's it for us. When we come back on Wednesday, we're finally back to match previews. Calcio is back. Thank God. I'm super excited about it. Oh yeah, Colby's back too.
We got to go.
Motts has to do a layup. Colby this week. That's right. He's really, really not hot right now. But we're really, really excited about this weekend, guys. And we'll touch base on Wednesday. Logs, where can everybody follow us?
Paisanos, you know the deal. You can find us on all socials: X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok at Calcio Culture FC. And where you're listening right now, whether that be Apple Pods or Spotify. Motts, from the same world, baby V. Take us away.
Paisanos, do not be a gagoots in Forza Calcio.